And welcome to Tuesday Training. I hope you're having a fantastic week. As always,
we are live from Austin, Texas, right here at Insurance Syndicate headquarters. And man, we have a great show for you.
Good morning. What's happening, man? It's Tuesday. It's time to get down with some training and some data and some information to keep your week moving in the right direction. Let's go. I got a lot to talk about today, as a matter of fact. Normally, I would kick off our show with a lot of talk about fraud and point out some of the different fraudsters that are out there, but I just don't have time today. But believe me, there's no shortage of articles out there right now of people that are getting arrested and charged with fraud in the millions of dollars. People in Florida, people in Houston, Texas, people that are getting extradited from other countries for almost $550 million in fraud against Medicare. Fraud is real. You should definitely be aware of it, and you should definitely educate your clients to not be willy-nilly throwing their Medicare card around to any Tom, Dick, or Harry that calls them. And like I tell my beneficiaries, like, hey, Medicare, number one, they're not going to call you. They only communicate by mail, right? If someone calls you on the phone and they're asking about your Medicare number, hopefully it's an insurance agent that's trying to help you with a reputable product or plan. Otherwise, it's probably someone trying to bill your Medicare number fraudulently. And if you're new to the space, anytime someone gets billed on their Medicare number, they get an explanation of those billing charges, a summary notice that they get from Medicare every month, as I remember. And they can see that stuff. I had a lady here in Cedar Park that noticed she was getting fraudulently billed for catheters, urinary catheters. So educate them on that stuff and keep them sharp. But I'm just going to dive right into it, man. As always, obviously, the show is brought to you by DFY CRM, the done-for-you CRM for insurance agents, one of the best ones out there. Tim and Eric, and it's certainly the CRM that we use, but Tim and Eric recently did a CRM boot camp, and I didn't get to participate in it, unfortunately. We're a little too busy over here, but my understanding is it went off like gangbusters. So again, for any reason you are an agent out there that is running around without a CRM, just trying to do it all on an Excel spreadsheet, I would highly encourage you to give them a call. With that said, let's get into it, man. Kaiser Family Foundation, as always, dropping knowledge and good statistics, man. If you're an agent in the Medicare space, and especially if you're an agent working with dual eligibles, and chances are you are, if you're in the Medicare space, you are, depending on maybe how you generate your leads or whatever. We do a lot of work with dual eligibles in this office, not necessarily by force that we're trying to target them or by choice, but they come in through our funnels and we do our best to take care of them. But obviously, dual eligibles, if you're still new to the space, that's people that are qualified and enrolled in both Medicare and Medicaid. And Kaiser Family Foundation just dropped a really nice report. It actually came out right about 2 weeks ago that goes over the profile of dual eligibles. It's good stuff, man. This could definitely help you. I've mentioned this several times. If you are an agent out there in the health space, whether it's Medicare or ACA, whatever, if you're in the health sector, you should definitely be following Kaiser Family Foundation and some of the information that they drop. They do a lot of great reports, statistical analysis on the industry, the market, etc. So we're going to take a look at some of this real quick. There's some key takeaways. It's an outstanding demographics research, I should say. And this was something that I actually did not know and realize how this market, but right there at the top, it says that more than 1/3, 34% of dual eligibles are under 65 and qualify for Medicare due to disability. I did not realize that much of the dual eligible space was under 65, but 34% of them certainly are. And then certainly only 6% of regular Medicare beneficiaries are running around out there with Medicaid. 2/3 of them, of dual eligibles, live on an income below $20,000 per person. The average, I've seen reports before for the average income for a 65-year-old is right around $41,000. Like, and that's something you always should keep in mind when you're talking to Medicare beneficiaries. You know, you might be talking to the ones that are higher income earners. You may not be. The average is only 41K. Living on 41K is not easy, especially if you're here in the Austin area, man. It is high. And then when you combine that with statistics that tell you that the average 65-year-old or senior spends close to 15% of their income on healthcare. And that includes premiums, usage costs, etc. So 15% of their average $41,000 is going to healthcare. So it's not surprising to see some of these statistics right here. Again, 2/3 of them, 64% of dual eligibles, live on an income below $20,000. And obviously those qualifications, those income thresholds, they vary by state. We have a resource in our Easy Guide to Medicare that basically points them in every single state. You can look it up, pull the data. It's pretty simple. I've shared it in the group before. All you got to do is basically go to, I want to say it's on medicare.gov is the original link. And then it will take you to a national map and you can pull up the resources for Medicare Savings Program, Medicaid qualifications in any state. Very, very useful tool if you are guiding people and trying to help them figure out, like, should I apply for Medicare Savings Program? Should I apply for Medicaid? Right? It gives you all the stats, the resources, the tools, and the thresholds to help you out with that. But I want to move down a little bit more and look at some of the data and the demographics on these dual eligibles. It'll tell you right here, right, that the green one is Medicare beneficiaries that do not have Medicaid, which is about 54 million of them, right? So about 54 million of your Medicare beneficiaries that are out there do not have Medicaid. And I want to say we're sitting right at maybe 67 million total Medicare beneficiaries. Your dual eligibles, right? There's 13 million of them that are dual eligible. 9.8 of those are full dual, meaning they have full Medicaid, and then 3.6 have partial, right? So there it tells you right there of all Medicare beneficiaries that don't have Medicaid, only 66% of them are under 65. But when you look at all of your dual eligibles, again, there's that 34% number. Income, 67% of your full duals are running below 20K. 9% of your Medicare beneficiaries that don't have Medicaid. This is a surprising statistic. There's 9% of Medicare beneficiaries living on less than $20,000 that are not enrolled in Medicaid. Somebody's got to find those people and help them out. Education, 35% of your full duals have less than a high school degree. 7% of your Medicare beneficiaries that do not have Medicaid have less than a high school degree. And this is a really important statistic here. 60% of all dual eligibles are female. Not surprising, really. And I would guess these are likely single females, widowed, whatever the case may be, left to their own devices, and certainly qualifying for Medicaid as well. Move on a little further down. It goes over some of your ethnicity demographics, right? If we look at all Medicare beneficiaries that do not have Medicaid, 82% of them are white, 8% are Black, non-Hispanic, 6% Hispanic, 5% other. When you go into your full dual space, right? Again, these are people that have full Medicaid. 47% white, 21% Black, non-Hispanic, 22% Hispanics make up the largest population of full duals outside of white folks. Obviously, we're 47%. But outside of your regular Caucasians, Hispanics make up the largest portion of them. And that is true both in your full dual and your all, pretty much your all number for the most part. You get into partials, Black, non-Hispanic take up more of that group. But definitely that Hispanic population is massive out there in the full dual space, which, because we are a primarily Spanish marketing group, we pick up a lot of them. Dual eligibles are more likely than Medicare beneficiaries without Medicaid to live in a long-term care facility or other institutional facility. Right? If you go down here and look at it, of all Medicare beneficiaries that do not have Medicaid, 1% of them live in a long-term care facility. You're all dual eligibles, and then your full dual. 10% of your full duals all live in a facility, some kind of nursing home, skilled nursing facility, some kind of institutional facility. And then you can look at the what they call the rurality, right? So if we're looking at all of our dual eligibles, 18% of them live in a rural area, right? So a little more remote, not right there in the big city. Conversely, right? 82% of them all live in the city. You got health characteristics, right? Obviously, larger shares of dual eligibles report being in fair or poor health compared to Medicare beneficiaries that do not have Medicaid, right? So generally speaking, there's a very large percentage of them right here. It's about 30. It looks like it's right in the 32% that say that, hey, they have fair health. And then like the top 10 to 13% all say they have poor health. And that makes sense, man. If people with less money, they don't have the ability, or they don't take the ability to take care of themselves as well. So they're going to be in poor health a lot of times. And I can definitely say that's true. Like, it's very rare. And I can't think of anybody that I've worked with that is dual eligible that was super healthy. It might be okay, but most of them that I've ever worked with myself, and I think this is probably pretty true across the board, they come with some health issues a little more often. Dual eligibles reporting a limit on their ADLs, their activities of daily living, right? Like transferring, dressing, feeding, et cetera, et cetera. So with no ADL problems is certainly the largest, but at the top here, like of all full duals, 28% of them have lost at least 3 or more of their activities of daily living. That's wild, especially when you consider that, what was it, only like 10% live in a facility, but 28% of them are missing at least 3 of their activities of daily living. Pretty rough. Mental health conditions, same thing. 49% of your full duals have a mental health condition. 39% have a cognitive impairment. 15% have some kind of intellectual development disability. So almost half, 49% of your full duals report having some type of mental health condition. And I assume that could be as easy as depression. I don't know if they're getting that data from medical information backgrounds or if they're getting that from prescriptions, right? So that mental health condition could certainly be very broad, where if someone's prescribed some of those depression medications that are out there, anti-anxiety medications, they would qualify them as having a mental health condition, where they're probably not that bad off, as an example. And then it's going to go through Medicaid status, right? And a little deeper there. So good data. I'm not going to go through every single line item on here, but I will make sure that you guys have a copy of this in the Facebook group. You can check it out yourself and dive into it. But again, I would highly encourage you, if you're an agent out there in the health sector, to follow Kaiser Family Foundation, because they do a very good job keeping their finger on the pulse of the marketplace in the industry. Moving along. Whew. Again, just a couple of weeks ago, CMS dropped the new final proposed. This is still proposed, right? And this is for the basically the physician fee schedule. 1,592 pages. It's massive. There is a lot of reform that they are doing in the payment model, but it doesn't just talk about payment model. I actually whipped up some notes. I haven't had a chance to dive through this thing. I mean, it's 1,592 pages. Like, give me a break. But I did feed it to my good buddy ChatGPT. And we're going to look through some of the talking points that it pulled out of it. Right? It is the considered the 2027 Medicare physician fee schedule proposed rule, but it covers far more than physician reimbursement. It includes changes involving telehealth, primary care, advanced care planning, Medicare eligibility, prescription drug inflation rebates, accountable care organizations or ACOs, rural providers, quality reporting, specialty care payment models, ambulance reimbursement, and artificial intelligence in healthcare. And again, what's most important to remember is this is still just proposed and is not all gloom and doom. It's just updates, regulation, and so forth. It is proposed. It is not finalized yet. So they got to still vote and haggle on this. It is open for people to submit their comments, questions, concerns, notes, whatever. There are certainly a lot of doctors that are submitting comments right now on it, to say the least. Because one thing that is definitely true is that Medicare physician payments are projected to decline again. And this is based on original Medicare, right? This has nothing to do with Medicare Advantage payments to doctors, right? That is a total separate ballgame. This is specifically original Medicare physician fees. So what they call the conversion factor is going to drop. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that ultimately just means, like, the point that you need to take away from this is it just means that more doctors are making less money on original Medicare, right? So when your client has original Medicare, whether it's with a supplement or whatever, when they go visit that doctor's reimbursements when he bills Medicare is going to be lower in 2027, assuming this gets approved. I'm of the opinion it probably will, but we'll see. They're going to make less money. Now, you could theorize that maybe that means that fewer doctors are going to accept original Medicare. That hasn't ever been the case. I can say that with confidence. Over the last at least 5 years, payment, and even before that, like payment reductions to doctors on original Medicare has been a constant. Like, it seems like every year they get paid less money by original Medicare, but still 99% of doctors accept Medicare. And 97 of them still accept the physician fee schedule exactly as it is, right? They accept assignment, as they call it, and they don't charge excess charges. As a matter of fact, that number has gone up to 98% last time I checked, and that was per Kaiser Family Foundation. So 99% of doctors accept original Medicare. The 1% that don't are usually in the behavioral health categories. A lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, some neuroscientists, etc. Not really uncommon because a lot of them don't accept insurance in general. And then 98% of them accept the fee schedule exactly as it is. So while I don't think it would result in more doctors not accepting original Medicare, it certainly could result in more doctors not accepting assignment and reserving the right to charge excess charges, right? And if you're not familiar with excess charges, I'm not going to give you a whole lesson on it, but basically those small percentage of doctors that think that they're worth more, they're allowed to charge up to 15% more than what Medicare says is usual and customary for any given service. If they have a Medicare supplement plan like Plan F or Plan G, it will cover those excess charges for them. That is one of the talking points that people argue about as against Plan N, but I've literally sold over 1,000 Plan Ns and have never seen anybody come back with excess charges. So it either doesn't happen or it's not happening at a rate that causes people to argue and complain about it. So what we're talking about here under this, right, and as obviously as I'm already hitting on it, this is going to affect provider participation most likely. This is kind of what I'm theorizing. Not saying that fewer doctors are going to accept original Medicare, but it's a possibility. It could certainly affect provider participation. It could also affect appointment availability. Maybe they only accept a certain number of Medicare clients, right? Or they only want to see Medicare clients a certain number of times throughout their month. So maybe they block off certain appointments, or like, we'll take anybody except a Medicare beneficiary for these appointments, as an example. Doctors consolidating their practices, right? Where more doctors are working together to consolidate their practice to reduce their overhead because they're getting less money from Medicare. Again, it's talking about the number of physicians accepting Medicare patients. That could be a problem. And again, willingness of providers to remain independent. And it could certainly create another influx or increase in direct primary care. If you're not familiar with direct primary care, it's pretty simple. You basically pay a doctor a monthly fee and you get to use their primary care services, and they do not bill Medicare at all. Matter of fact, most of them make you sign a waiver acknowledging like, hey, we're not going to reimburse you, or we're not going to get reimbursed by Medicare. So you have to understand we can't bill your Medicare card if you're using us. And there are Medicare beneficiaries out there using direct primary care. There's a couple of ways you can incorporate it and help them maintain that DPC clinic while being on Medicare. But anyway, moving along. Number 2, telehealth flexibility largely continues. So telehealth still isn't, it's not one of those things that's going away. I think a lot of people were concerned that it was going to go away after the pandemic. Certainly it's not. It is still a very viable conversation you can have with some of your clients. So they are removing some of the geographic restrictions. They have proposed, again, this is all proposed stuff, to expand eligible originating sites. So where can you actually originate a telehealth visit from? A larger range of practitioners. So they're expanding who's allowed to utilize telehealth as part of their practice. Access to audio-only telehealth. And delayed in-person requirements for certain mental health services. So they also claimed some modifiers or claim modifiers will begin January 27 to identify services that are delivered through third-party platforms on telehealth. So it's not, again, like I said, it was originally just a temporary pandemic thing, not anymore. Like they are looking at still maintaining it as a flexible, permanent option. And again, this is proposed, not final. Number 3, they want to add more services on the telehealth list. Right? I was already talking about telehealth a little bit more, but they want to add some additional items. Advanced care planning for people that have obviously more severe or a lot of comorbids. They need advanced care. Shared medical appointments, or I guess multiple doctors can jump in on that telehealth medical appointment. Different speech and language treatments through telehealth. And then evaluation and treatment of vaccine-related adverse effects. All of that's getting or proposed to get expanded under telehealth. They are reconsidering how primary care should get paid. And it says there, one of the most strategically important sections asks whether Medicare should move away from paying primary care providers almost entirely one visit at a time. And CMS is seeking input on monthly prospective payments, hybrid models, outcome-based payments, bundled payments, simplification of the numerous care management billing codes. Basically, they are asking whether primary care should be paid for managing the patient rather than simply paid every time the patient walks through the door. So what that could do, it could encourage a more proactive outreach. It could definitely create better chronic condition management. That's the whole method behind value-based care clinics, right? Is you get better care coordination, especially for people that have chronic conditions. Greater coordination between visits, same concept there. Earlier intervention before hospitalization, so they can find the problem quicker before you actually end up getting hospitalized because of it. And then finally there it says they're looking at an increased use of clinical staff and technology. AI, the 5th talking point on this was that artificial intelligence is officially entering the Medicare payment discussions, how it's going to change physician documentation, clinical decision support, patient monitoring, care management, wellness visits, the cost of primary care, clinical outcomes, etc. So it is going to continue, obviously, to weave its way in there. Number 6 goes over advanced care planning to become more accessible. So again, this is for your folks that need more help, right? So again, your older beneficiaries, your beneficiaries that have serious chronic conditions, families that are preparing for a beneficiary to become incapacitated, and then hospice and palliative care conversations. They're also exploring a broader community-based palliative care benefit. And it says, hey, like who should qualify for palliative care? Is a 6-month terminal prognosis required? Should it be required? Where we can't extend palliative care to them unless their terminal prognosis is 6 months or less. Should home visits be included? Interdisciplinary teams, how do they get paid? How palliative care can reduce hospitalization, and how it should coordinate with existing Medicare benefits. They are cracking down on Medicare eligibility. CMS estimates that approximately 32,000 people could lose Medicare beginning in 2027 if this is finalized. And specifically, they are going to remove Medicare from people that have temporary protected status, pending asylum applications, humanitarian parole, and certain victims or certain protections as victims of crime or violence. And they project that they could save almost $5 billion over 10 years by making sure that none of those folks have access to Medicare. Prescription drug inflation rebates are being further formalized. So how are the calculations are handled when the CPI data is unavailable? More importantly, the treatment of skin substitutes, 340B drugs, new reporting requirements. They're basically looking at building out an administrative machinery behind the Inflation Reduction Act. It's pretty much what it says here. And that should affect Medicare spending and drug reimbursement more directly than necessarily the retail price that they would see. So it doesn't necessarily mean that drug costs are going to go down. It just means that Medicare may not have to spend as much on them. ACO organizations are being encouraged to expand. If you're not familiar with ACO, that is the Accountable Care Organization movement or system or whatever that was created several years ago. So they are going to do some updating on that. There are about 1 million additional beneficiaries being assigned to ACOs, they're saying. So in a lot of areas, they have these ACO groups, and they are assigning Medicare people to them. Doesn't mean they're changing their plan, right? Or they're automatically moving them into an MA plan, something like that. But they are getting the opportunity to work with certain ACOs as well. There's a lot in here. Ways to reduce duplicate tests, right? That's always been a thing, trying to reduce waste. If they already gave them the MRI, like, why are we doing another MRI on this guy? We just did one 3 months ago. Like, do we really need one? That's where a lot of the prior authorization stuff comes from in the Medicare Advantage side. But they are looking at additional ways to reduce that as well. So that might mean more prior authorization on certain tests to prevent duplication. That could mean prior authorization expanding in original Medicare to reduce that as well, et cetera, et cetera. Goes through rural providers, community health centers to receive more attention. So they have updated payment policies for a lot of the rural health clinics. This has definitely been an issue since at least the pandemic in 2020, where a lot of these rural hospitals and rural clinics are not funded as well and have been closing down. So they're looking at helping out some of that. Shifting quality measurement toward patient outcomes. This is a big one here. So there is something called the MIPS, which is Medicare Incentive Payment System, if I remember correctly. It's basically incentive payments for doctors to see certain types of patients. They want to get away from that, and they want to, if we're going to incentivize you to pay you more money as a doctor or a provider, we want it to be based on proof that you helped improve the outcome of the client, the health outcome. So we want to see patient-reported outcomes, better specific measures, electronic quality reporting, health info technology, et cetera. So if you can prove that your clients have a better health outcome by using your clinic, by using your services, we will pay you more money. They're looking at a new care model for ambulatory specialty payments. So quite a bit of stuff in there, right? Again, this is all proposed. I haven't had a chance to get deep into some of it. There are some areas that I want to dive into a little more, and I will bring some of those back on a follow-up show, maybe next week, maybe the week after. But I'm going to dive through this a little deeper. But those are some of the talking points that are on there. Again, it's 1,592 pages. It won't directly affect you as an agent necessarily, but it may affect how you position certain products and how you help some of your clients solve certain problems, if you will. So with that said, we're going to move on to my real topic for today, which is the $100,000 difference between producers and professionals, right? The $100,000 difference, right? Basically, I've got 10 habits that will separate a professional in this industry from just the producer. Pretty simple, right? I've been doing this business for 22 years. I've worked as a captive agent, independent agent. I've worked in wholesale for 13 years, helping thousands of insurance agents expand in their business, grow in the Medicare space, whatever it might be. When I left from Precision Senior Marketing at the end of 22, I had 454 direct producers and somewhere around 2,500, maybe even 3,000 second, third, fourth generation downline agents under us. So I've literally worked with thousands of agents, right? And I have met agents that have probably one of the worst personalities in the world do amazing at this business. On the other hand, I've seen agents that have amazing personalities can't rub two nickels together in this business and fail. I've seen quiet people make a lot of money, and I've seen the boisterous, outgoing, gregarious people just not be able to put it together, right? Personality isn't the difference. Having good leads isn't the difference. The difference is in how an agent thinks, how they operate, and repeatedly what they're doing when no one's watching. So I'm going to run through 10 habits. You may recognize yourself in some of these. Check them out. Number one, producers sell policies. Professionals solve problems, right? A producer is always going to start the conversation based around the product. Hey, I've got a Medicare Advantage plan. Hey, I've got this or I've got that. Whereas a professional begins with the person and, more importantly, what that person is thinking about. What are their problems? It's such an important way to sell that my good friend Greg Gerbickian wrote a whole book about it. Sell the problem, not the solution. Too many of you are hitting people in the face with facts and benefits and yada, yada. And what you need to do is really understand what is your client worrying about? What are the problems that they need with their healthcare package, with their life insurance, with their retirement income, with their property and casualty, whatever it may be. What are the problems that they're having, and how can I then use my products as solutions to fix it, right? The producer always thinks about, hey, what can I sell today? Whereas the professional is going to think more like, hey, what problem is in front of me and how can I help solve it? Fairly simple, right? Because you have to think of it like nobody wakes up wanting to go buy a hospital indemnity plan. Like they don't wake up like, hope someone calls me to sell a hospital indemnity, right? They're thinking about their problems. They're thinking about their Medicare coverage and how it may not protect them properly. They're thinking about the bills that they're receiving in the mail. They're thinking that their family may have to pay for a funeral when they pass. They're worried about losing money in retirement or outliving their money and their income. That's what's going through their brains, not, I wonder if someone's going to call me and offer me an annuity today. None of that's in their brain. What's really in their brain are the problems that they're experiencing, especially their future anxieties. Right? What's going to happen in the future when this occurs, right? A producer might tell somebody that, hey, this plan has a 0 premium, a dental benefit, and a grocery card. But the professional will say, hey, before we talk about plans, I want to make sure that your doctors, your prescriptions, your budget, your travel habits, your medical needs are all properly considered. Producer presents feature. The professional creates clarity, right? If you look at it from a final expense example, a producer might just ask somebody, hey, how much life insurance do you think you need? Or how much do you want to buy? Right? Or just what is your budget so that I can squeeze something in there? Right? But a professional asks, hey, if something happened to you tomorrow, who would be responsible for paying for your funeral and final expenses? And that question introduces the real problem. If we're a retirement example, if you're in the retirement space, right, a producer might say something like, hey, I've got an annuity that's paying a really good competitive rate. Whereas a professional is going to ask them, hey, what portion of your retirement income is guaranteed and what portion depends on the market cooperating with you, right? So again, the professional is starting with the problem. So your best sales conversations, they should not feel like sales presentations. They should feel like someone actually listened, understood the problem, and explained a real world solution. So before you go on your next appointment, ask yourself, hey, am I preparing to present a product or am I preparing to understand someone's problem? Habit number 2, producers chase commissions. Professionals build clients, right? A producer will see an application. They'll see the application, right? The product. Whereas a professional will see the beginning of a relationship that they're going to have with the client, right? Doesn't mean that commissions are unimportant because we are running a business, right? We all need revenue. But when commission is the only objective, you're going to start making short-term decisions. And then you'll just recommend the product that pays the most or pays you the fastest, right? You might rush through the application even, and then you disappear after the sale. versus understanding the professional approach is going to be trying to create a Medicare client for life, right? Or a life insurance client for life, or a PNC client for life, right? You're trying to have that client be part of your business for hopefully the rest of their life, that you can service them and take care of them. Because eventually they're going to need things like Medicare plan reviews, dental, vision, hearing covers. They're going to need additional items, planning, income guidance, etc. Their situations will evolve. And if all you do is think about the product, right, it's going to be a short relationship. But if you think about how they evolve and what they're going to need as they grow on, then the relationship may last a lot longer, and you can help them evolve their solutions as their problems evolve, right? An agent might just enroll a client, collect the commission, never contact them again. And then 3 years later, what happens? Another agent calls, offers a review, discovers an unmet need, and then they get the client's loyalty. The professional approach is totally different. They're going to have a welcome call. They're going to have policy delivery confirmation. They're going to do periodic check-ins. They'll do an annual review. They will do a birthday or anniversary communication with them. Like, they are basically, if you look at this, they are massaging and nurturing the relationship, not just a sale and go. They are trying to nurture that relationship so that they can get more cross sales, so that they can get more referrals, and just build a true relationship with their beneficiary. Because clients, and here's a concept here, clients do not always leave because another agent offered something better. They leave because another agent simply just paid attention to them. Like, I talk about this after AEP. Right. I talk about this concept all the time, but I specifically talk about it as that period, an open enrollment period from January 1st to March 31st, or if we're talking about Medicare specifically here, right? You spend all this time, you spend all this money, you go write a bunch of business during the annual election period at the end of the year, and then you just walk away from all of them, while January 1st through March 31st is open enrollment period, where those same people have 90 days to now test drive the decision that you helped them make during AEP. Right? They get 7 weeks to figure out AEP and make one choice, or make as many choices as they want. The last one sticks, but then they get 90 full days to second guess it. And a lot of agents will fool themselves in thinking that their clients don't get called during OEP because you're not allowed to market OEP, right? Don't fool yourself. Agents are still getting them on the phone. They're still paying attention to them. This is why we have a very high touch process in our business. After the client becomes, or after the beneficiary becomes our client, we will touch them about 6 times in the first 90 days. We want to make sure that we're staying in front of them. If they have a problem with their covers, they're going to talk to us. We take a very professional approach. We're not just writing the app and moving on with their life. So look at the last 10 apps that you wrote. How many of those clients have you heard from since the first sale? How many of those clients have you talked to since you sold them? One sale pays you for the month, but the relationship can pay you for years. Habit number 3, producers memorize scripts. Professionals master conversations. Scripts are great. Scripts give you structure, right? The newer you are, the more likely you might need a script to help you get rolling, at least an introductory script, because it's going to give you tested language. It prevents you from forgetting important questions. But the goal is never to sound like someone reading a script. The goal is to understand the conversation so well that the script becomes natural. You internalize it. Right? You internalize it and you learn to make it your own. So a producer is going to focus on just getting through the words, but a professional will focus on understanding the answers. As an example, life insurance, a scripted question might be, hey, do you currently have life insurance? And that will produce a yes or no answer. A better conversational, someone who masters the conversation, is going to ask it differently. Going to tell me what planning you have to protect your family. They're going to ask something that's more thought-provoking versus just a straightforward, hey, do you got life insurance? They're going to go about it differently. They're going to open up and master that conversation, right? Another example, maybe for retirement, is, hey, are you interested in an annuity? That would be the basic producer question that might be on the script. But a real question should be, what concerns you about your retirement income? Right? Or what plans have you made? This is one that I stole from Pete Fournier. What plans have you made to 3x your income over the next 10 years? That's pretty thought-provoking. Most people probably haven't even thought about that in quite that way. But it definitely opens up their idea of like, hey, I am concerned about outliving my income. Habit number 4, producers wait for leads. Professionals create opportunities, right? Most agents will believe that their success is controlled by the number of leads they receive. When production slows down, the first conclusion is like, I need better leads. And that may be true sometimes, but usually it's not, because a true professional is not going to allow their income to depend on a lead vendor or one Facebook campaign or one carrier list or one enrollment period. They're going to create opportunities from multiple directions. And those opportunity sources, the big one is right in your own backyard, your existing clients. Like when you've been in this business for a long time, or at least a good period, you've developed a book of business. Are you going back to those existing clients and trying to find more business? Trying to find additional problems that you didn't solve the first time? Are you going back to those existing clients to look for referrals? Are you working with referral partners that can bring you referrals? Are you doing policy reviews with your existing client base to make sure that the policy they already have with you is the right policy for next year, right? Whether it's health insurance, a Medicare plan, a life insurance plan, an annuity, are you reviewing that with them every year to make sure it's still the best one moving forward? Community events, educational seminars, networking groups, social media, local partnerships, all examples of where you can find opportunity instead of just waiting for a lead to come in the door or waiting for that Facebook campaign to kick off, whatever it might be, right? An agent may have 500 Medicare clients, but if they only speak to those clients during AEP, they're missing hundreds of conversations because those clients also need other products. They need final expense life insurance. They need hospital indemnity. They might need more dental coverage, right? But you won't know that unless you pick up the phone and call them. So you got to reach out to them. Number 5, producers hope, professionals measure. A producer might say something like, hey, I had a pretty good month. But a professional knows exactly what happened in that month because they can look at the activity. They can see how many leads they spoke to. They can see how many clients they enrolled. They can see how many cross sales they made and what their attachment rate was. They can see what business got placed, what business fell off, what lapsed, what didn't. They can see all that and they're able to measure it so that they can realize how good their campaigns, their funnels, their marketing, their efforts are working for them. So as an example, let's look at a funnel example. Maybe you have an agent, or maybe you are an agent, and then you get 100 leads. Out of those 100 leads, 60 of them answer the phone, 30 of them schedule appointments, 20 complete the appointment and actually sit, 8 of those submit an application, and 6 are approved and placed out of 100 leads. You might think that you have a closing problem if, like, shoot, I only closed 6 policies out of 100 leads. And you might think, I just need more leads. And certainly more leads would get you more sales. But the biggest leak when you look at that funnel is actually your scheduling and your completed appointments. There's something going on in there where you're not getting enough appointments and you're not getting enough people that schedule the appointment to actually show up. That's where the breakdown in that funnel is. It's not that you suck at closing. It's that somewhere in the earlier part of the funnel, you're missing it, right? So that's the difference between a producer and a professional. A producer is just going to throw more leads at the wall and keep doing the exact same process. A professional is going to look at their process and go, hey, I do want to get some more leads, but I need to fix some of the process because it's broken down and I'm not getting the conversion metrics that I truly need, right? So that's another big difference between the producer and the professional. Habit number 6, producers will react. Professionals follow systems. A producer runs the business by their memory, right? They're just running it on their memory. The professional runs the business from a process. I'll give you a great example. This is something that my wife and my partner is very good at. She's excellent at documenting notes. She is excellent at creating a process for how she follows her people as she moves them from, hey, you're a brand new lead. I get you on the phone. I start talking to you. I'm going to document all these notes and I'm going to keep them in my CRM. And I'm going to build a key follow-up process as I move you through the transition into Medicare and selecting your plans and getting your cross market down and getting you prepped for your first annual review with me. And she documents it extremely well. She is not running around trying to remember that one of her clients applied for Part B and is still waiting for the application. She has it documented and she has a follow-up task scheduled to call that person and be like, hey, Betty, Did your Part B come in yet? Because I had a note here that we applied for it 4 weeks ago, and I wanted to check in to make sure if it's come in or not. And that type of process, that type of documentation and sticking to the discipline of that process is why she writes the amount of business that she does. And she has clients that love her. She's giving them attention, right? She is a true advocate for that client professionally and walking them through the entire process of getting transitioned into Medicare and so forth, right? Because what happens if you don't is you end up forgetting follow-up calls. You miss clients that you were supposed to follow up with, right? You're going to lose applications because of that. You lose track of where your pending applications are. You end up repeating work, spinning your wheels, doing things that were probably frustrating versus, oh, no, I just have a documented process and I just have to follow that. So I have a system. A system and a process is what will definitely help you duplicate yourself. Having a system and a process is something that's trainable. Right? I can't train an agent to just memorize their business and just try to remember when Betty applied for Part B and stay on top of it. Good luck. Plus the other hundreds of clients that you have and things that you have going on in your world. Just try to remember it all. That's not duplicatable. That's not scalable. But if I am growing a team and I create a process and I know that process works because I have proof in the pudding of the process that I built, then that I can pass on. I can scale. I can show agents. And I can create teams with it. And I can create success with other people because all I have to do is tell them, follow the process and stick to it. Number 7, producers stop after the sale. Professionals create lifetime value. See, a producer is going to believe that the sale is complete when the application is signed. But the professional understands that the client is the most vulnerable immediately after the sale. What happens after people buy stuff? Sometimes they get buyer's remorse. Did I make the right decision? And they have additional questions. When that policy going to arrive? When's my first payment coming? Who do I call when I have questions? But as a professional, you are walking them through those next steps and explaining exactly how it works and that they can trust you that you will walk them through the process as well, right? So you should have a strong post-sale process. Every time I close an application, I tell the client exactly what happens next. Hey, I'm going to send this application up to Bankers Fidelity. It's going to take them a couple of days. They're pretty quick. They'll approve it, and they're going to sign a policy number. As soon as I get that, you're going to get 2 things. You're going to get an email from me, and you're going to get a phone call that lets you know that that policy was approved. And then about another 7 to 10 days later, you're going to get your packet in the mail that has your policy and your little card that you can take to the doctor. I'm going to call you again around 2 weeks to check to make sure that came in the mail and you have it and you're all good to go. That's what the steps look like. And as a reminder, your first premium is going to come out here, your second premium there, and so forth. I make sure that they have it. And in many cases, I'll tell them to even write it down and make some notes on it. Habit number 8, producers fear technology. Professionals leverage it. A lot of people think that technology is a threat, especially right now with automations and AI and all the stuff that we have going on. But a real professional is going to understand that, hey, technology is something that I can use to increase my professionalism, to document and run my process so that I can be more efficient, have higher conversions, higher retention, and just be a better professional agent instead of just some producer that doesn't have much. They're still trying to run everything on an Excel spreadsheet. You've got to understand that technology is highly useful in today's space. AI is not replacing us, but agents using AI are replacing other agents. You can guarantee that. What are some things that technology can help you with? Well, it can help you with appointment reminders, follow-up sequences, task creation, calendar scheduling and rescheduling. It can help you with data entry, call summaries. I'm super looking forward to being able to input this into our CRM experience because we're making some expansion, some changes, some advancements, but we're going to start doing call summaries at some point in the not too distant future, where when that call is recorded through the CRM, it then has an AI tool that checks the call out post-sale and scores it based on quality, efficiency, compliance, etc. as a coaching tool to help the agents, right? All of those types of things can be done with technology. Educational content, policy status notifications, all of this stuff is through technology, man. When someone, like, we have a ton of stuff going on in our CRM. When someone's policy gets approved, they're going to get an automated text, an automated email, and they get an automated task for the VA to follow up with them. They get an automated cross-sell task. Like, all of that stuff happens in the background. And that's where technology can truly help you create a process that you can follow instead of trying to run the game by memory. And that allows you as a human to act as a human and do the things that you are best at: building trust, reading emotion, massaging and nurturing relationships, explaining complicated decisions, delivering difficult news sometimes, taking responsibility, showing empathy. Those are all the things that you can do and what you do best. So let technology, let AI do some of the other things. Habit number 9. Producers learn just enough. Professionals never stop studying. Always be the student. I saw a post yesterday on Facebook. My good buddy, John Wetmore, who is wildly successful in this business. He created a life insurance agency selling over $200 million a year in annual premium. Sold it, became an integrity partner. Now he's not really he's in the business, but he's not really in the business. He's doing some peripheral things, coaching, training, whatever. But where I'm going with this is I saw a post from him that he is at my other buddy, Pete Fournier's advanced market training workshop. He's not there coaching. John is there learning from Pete. He is always being a student. He's incredibly successful in this game. We would think, hey, John Wetmore, like, what does he need to learn? That dude's mastered the whole business. He's scaled a massive business to over $200 million in premium, sold it. Boom, he's a killer. Dude made about $4 million a year on his own pen while he was running that business. Like, what is he learning? But he is still being a student. That's a massive difference between producers and professionals. A producer is just in the game to try to write some business, make some money so that they can go have fun and do whatever it is they want to do. Buy their material things, whatever. But a true professional in the industry is someone that is definitely maintaining a student mentality at all times. I spend a fair amount of time studying things about this industry. I study a lot different stuff than I used to. It's evolved as my career in the business has evolved. I read a lot of industry news and try to see what I can do to make sure that I'm on top of the Medicare regulation and some of the changes that happen as fast as I can. So if I need to make some pivots, if I need to adapt, I can. Or if I just need to learn what the new Medicare rules are, because they change every year anyway, right? So the professional will always continue studying, whether it's the products, whether it's the new underwriting rules, sales language that's changing and evolving and how sales happen, communication skills, marketing, compliance, technology, etc. I feel like I spend most of my time learning technology lately because it's changing at such a rapid pace. And then the final habit number 10, producers build income, professionals build a business, right? So the producer is always going to focus on whatever commission they made for the month, where a professional thinks about what they are building for the next 5, 10, 20 years. Like, what are you trying to accomplish long-term, right? Are you just in this business for next month's commission? Or are you in this business understanding that 5 years from now, you're going to be at location X, 10 years from now, you're going to be at destination Y, whatever it may mean, right? There's nothing wrong with creating a good personal income, but if you can build a true business and a distribution within here, that's revenue that everybody gets to enjoy, right? And even if you're an individual producer and you're not into building a team, like, you should still think about it in a long-term way. Like, I want to build a book of business that has 1,000 clients in it and pays me $300,000 a year in income that I can use to do whatever it is that you want to do with that. Right? You should approach this business as a business. Too many people get into insurance and they approach it as a sales job. Yeah, it's a sales job, sure, but it is actually a business opportunity. The whole insurance platform as a producer, broker, is a business opportunity if you see it that way. Whether you're creating your own little business or you're trying to create something that's much larger, an agency or IMO, et cetera. So your perspective on this industry is definitely a big part of what will be your demise or your success, right? So those are 10 pretty simple habits that I put together that kind of separate the producer from the professional. And speaking of, one of the items in there was technology, and I'm just going to show off a little something that we're building here real quick for the last 5 minutes. Let me share my screen real quick. And this is a proprietary tool that we have put together or are putting together here inside of GoObula. So any of the agents that are working with us get access to this. It's called Claro, which means Carrier Logic Assessment, Risk, and Options. It is basically an underwriting tool. Currently, it is dedicated to final expense, but we're going to be expanding this to Medicare supplements and other products as well. So it's not a quote engine. Do not get what I'm trying to show you here as a quote. It's not a quote engine. This is for, hey, I want to help someone secure the best final expense product for them. And it was an underwriting tool. So it has a few options. These are the 6 products that we sell in the final expense world. We sell the Ascendo product under Aetna, the Continental Life product under Aetna, Foresters, United National Life, Bankers Valley, Mutual Omaha. Those are our primary final expense products that we don't want to work with. So if I want, I can just do an underwriting review on Mutual Omaha. I just click on this little button here. Boom, I run through it. It's going to get me through the health questions, and it'll spit out if they're preferred, if they're graded, benefit, whatever it might be. Alternatively, as you can see, I'm using ChatGPT's work features to build it. Now I got to find it again. Sorry about that. But basically, it's an underwriting tool that's going to help agents quickly underwrite a case for final expense and whip it out. Right? So it has a universal one. If I just want to underwrite one product, it's there. I can do that. But if really what I want to do is I want to underwrite across all products, I have a universal product match that I can simply run through. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I just want to give you guys an idea of some of the things that we're using technology for. And if you are a GoObula agent, you will have access to this as soon as we launch it. It's getting really close to launch date. Might be today. And then it's going to go through 35 health questions. Technically, there are 81 health questions in here, but there are 35 primary ones. And if depending on how those questions are answered, the AI conditional logic will ask a follow-up question if necessary. And after all of those questions are properly answered, it's going to tell you at the end of it. And I'm just going to speed through here real fast and show you some examples, what it looks like at the end. We'll have to throw a couple of yes answers in there for grins, I guess. So let me speed through and you'll see what I'm talking about. So it goes through all the primary questions that we need. If certain questions are answered yes, it even has the medications. So based on the prescriptions that they are taking, you can add those into it and it will tell you if it is a declinable med or not. But we're not going to bother punching any meds in at the moment. I'm just going to show you the basics. I went through there. And based on the way I answered those questions, Ascendo would still give them a preferred rate. Plan Right would give them preferred. Living Promise would give them the level benefit. Final expense shield on UNL level. But then if you go further down, you'll see that Bankers Fidelity says that they're not eligible for coverage, and so does Continental Life. So really quickly, I can find out what their risk class is. And then this is important because then I can take that information, go straight to my quote engine, and I can quote the exact rate very accurately, right? Versus trying to always quote someone on preferred as a hook, bring them in, underwrite them, find out, hey, they don't qualify for preferred. Now I have to try to convince them of why they should buy the graded policy for $40 more per month or whatever it might be. Where instead you do a good needs analysis, you underwrite them based on their needs analysis, And then you quote them a rate based on the underwriting so that it's super accurate. And most likely your policy is getting approved. So these are some of the tools that we're building out here. If you are a GoAvila agent, man, we will make this available to you as soon as it's launched. It's probably getting launched here in the next couple of days. I got a few more tests and tweaks that we're working on, but that's an example of the difference between a professional and a producer right there. Hope you guys enjoyed Tuesday training. Have an awesome day. I'll see you on the flip side.